guys so much for coming. Tonight we're going to be talking to you about our social skills resource. It's for Hispanic parents of children with autism. My name is Jenny Licor Blanco.
And I'm Ashley. We're students from Barry University, and we're part of the occupational therapy program at Barry.
Any reason why you're specifically targeting Hispanic parents as opposed to this?
So we had to do I like that question.
Yeah.
We had to do a literature review to find out what was missing for this population, and we found that there was a lot of things that weren't targeted towards Hispanic families or that were not culturally sensitive to their needs, and that Hispanic families have a greater need for resources. They have a harder time finding these resources and seeking them out.
Is part of that the language barrier?
Some of it is a language barrier, and some of it doesn't necessarily have to do with the language. It's just the way and the format that things are delivered. So when we say a social skills resource, it's also a parent group, and that ties into a little bit of our Hispanic culture that we like to interact, right? And we like to talk, and we like to, and we are bilingual, so.
Yeah. So you'll even, later on we're gonna introduce, like, you'll get to actually flip through the manual. You'll see that some of the comments we make are culturally sensitive, like instead of saying aunts, we'll say like tia, and things of that nature to go ahead and include, you know, the more of the cultural part of it.
And at this time, we didn't translate it, but if need be for the future, we could. We're both fully bilingual.
A good question. So, welcome. You guys have already filled out the surveys, so we're gonna just go on to the next slide.
As we mentioned earlier, this is our graduate project. We created a resource manual that will be for leading a social skills group for parents of children with autism. We have two manuals basically. One is a facilitator guide, meaning us, whoever's running the group, and we have a parent guide,
Which is the one in black and white. Okay.
So the facilitator guide just has comments for the person to know what to say. The content is both sensory-based and behavior-based, which we'll touch on a little bit within our presentation on what that means. And it's used basically to educate parents on how to use these strategies to help the children participate in everyday life.
And just FYI, the facilitator guide is meant for an occupational therapist to actually lead this this social skills group. So you won't find it that it'll be a teacher or a speech therapist. We've designed it specifically for occupational therapists to go ahead and lead these social groups in the future if we were to actually have a social skills group.
Voy a cerrarle aquí para no interrumpir, ¿eh?
Gracias. So as she was saying, the reason that we came up with this resource guide is because the prevalence of children with autism today keeps rising. 1 in 59 children have been diagnosed with autism today. Many of them will present with social skills deficits as a result, and because of that, they have difficulties interpreting social skills. 46 to 96% of children with autism will demonstrate sensory difficulties, and more than 20 studies have established these that intensive long-term ABA, which is also known as behavior therapy, that these therapies have actually improved the function for children with autism. So to sum up, the research does indicate that social skills groups and parent support groups can help when you use behavior-based therapy and sensory-based strategies. So what we're trying to do, the whole purpose of our manual is to bridge the gap between what the children learn at their schools, at their therapies, and try to teach the parents those skills as well so that they can actually use it together. And you guys are basically on the same page. I was gonna mention something about...
With that being said, this is not a replacement for any kind of therapy that your child could get.
Right.
So we're using sensory strategies, but it's not sensory integration therapy, which can only be given by an occupational therapist. And it's not behavioral therapy, which can only be given by a certified behavioral therapist.
Correct.
This is just, you guys are here because you want more information and you want to do all these things with your children at home, and that's what it is. It's providing you with some of those strategies.
Right.
Today's objectives is to tell you how our resource works, to explain a little bit more what are social skills, what is sensory, and what is behavior. Because I know we're throwing these terms around. You may be familiar or you may need more information on that. What can you expect to gain if you were participating in this program? We will give you our resource has 6 modules. It's pretty lengthy, but today we're gonna show you 1 module. We're gonna ask you to try it with the strategies that we give you and to report back to us in about a week and let us know how it went.
Okay, so piggybacking off of what she said, so today is just a pilot session. So we're gonna provide you with an overview of the content that you will find in the manual. As Jenny said, we're gonna just focus on module 5 today, which we have a copy for you guys. And then we're gonna get your feedback. But just so you guys know, if we were to conduct a social skills program for parents, it would be a 6-week program where we meet up for 1-hour sessions once a week. Okay, and then so during the first 5 weeks, we're gonna have a lot of parent education sessions. So it's for parental knowledge, it's to increase the ability to implement the skills that you learn, receive those behavioral and sensory-based strategies. And so each week that you would come, we would also like to discuss what you've learned, what did work, what didn't work, get your feedback on the previous week that we've taught you some strategies. And then the final week would essentially be a play group for the children. You actually bring your child to our session and we would have them participate in an activity where then you can also see them integrate some of the skills that you've taught them and that you've learned throughout the whole session as well.
So this is actually the activity. It's a rainbow fruit salad. It's with like little marshmallows for the clouds and gold coins. It provides a lot of, from this simple activity, the children really get a lot out of it. There's a lot of teaching moments that happen and a lot of moments to implement those strategies that we keep talking about. Yes. And also at that session, the facilitator starts. So you step back, the facilitator kind of is explaining everything, you're watching, you see how the facilitator provides feedback to the children in the manner in which they relate to the children, and then you step in. But you have someone there giving you feedback like, wow, Isaac did this really well, so let's give him a compliment or whatever it may be.
Okay, let me go over this one too. Okay, so for the 6 weeks, module 1 is going to concentrate on just having an introduction to what sensory and what behavioral based approaches are. So we're going to, some of the strategies that we talk about is creating a sensory rich environment and having appropriate behaviors. Yeah, it's good if you have it too, which is on the first page. Module 2 will then be an introduction to appropriate social skills. So we'll go through all the developmental milestones from children from birth all the way to 5 years old. And then the development of play, like parallel play, socializing. For module 3, you have action versus reaction. So when your child like spills a cup of milk off the table, you're like, oh my gosh, like why can't you be more careful? Instead of having that initial reaction, we like to train you to not focus on the undesired behavior, but more so like, oh, oops, it was an accident. Okay, what do we need to do? Let's go grab a napkin. Let's clean up after ourselves. So differentiating, your initial reaction to what you should probably be focused on when things like that happen, and encouraging your child to participate in activities. Module 4 is going to be focused on social interactions in our inner circle, which are primarily your siblings, your family members. Then module 5 is going to be the outer circle, so your friends, your teachers, police officers, firefighters, community helpers. And then lastly is module 6, which is more of our like integration setting where you have your child in the session. We will recap briefly the 5 sessions. As Jenny said, there will be moments where you're with the child and then moments where you'll let your child be and you're gonna just observe as the facilitator gives them directions for the activity. And like I said, so we'll jump in to do a group activity that day.
And this is the one that we're doing today. We're gonna do. Was that
Oh,
me?
that's
'Cause
cool.
That's right.
Oh, that's good. Then now we know we can just tap the board.
It's module 5 that we'll be explaining to you guys later. Do you guys have any questions so far?
No.
Okay, alright. Going too fast or too slow, let us know and we'll apologize. So social skills, we keep saying social skills, social skills. What are social skills? Well, what did you guys do when you walked in? We made eye contact, we smiled, we shook hands, or we gave a hug. And those are all the skills that we use to communicate and interact with one another. It's not just what we say with speech, it's our gestures and our body language as well. They impact our ability to interact with everyone around us, and they allow our children and us to react appropriately, right, to circumstances and situations all around us. And we know that sometimes our children might have an inappropriate reaction. How do we deal with that, and how do we encourage the reactions that we want? So it's like,
Oh no. Jenny, your hands are touched.
I don't know.
Okay. So what is sensory? So in occupational therapy, we learn a lot about sensory integration. So in our manual, we're going to be using sensory-based interventions or strategies. But sensory, essentially what it is the ability to take in and process sensation or input from your environment, from movement, and being able to use it to plan and execute a behavior. So individuals who may have a decreased ability to process these inputs may have a difficulty producing actions, and this may impair their ability to learn and have appropriate behaviors. So the good news is that with enhanced sensation, then this can actually improve the ability to process the sensory input so that you can learn and have better behaviors.
So when we talk about sensory, it's a whole module, and when you hear sensory, what do you think of? Your senses, right?
Yeah, basically.
Your five senses. So right now, you're receiving all kinds of input, like from the chair on your body, from visual around you, maybe the light bothers you, maybe your stomach's grumbling and you have inner sensations. All of that is affecting how our children learn and behave, and recognizing that is very important. And I'm sure you have all experienced at some point in some social situation. And then what is behavior? Behavior is the way an individual acts to represent or express a feeling, a want, or a need. And the sooner that we learn that that's what every behavior is, the better that we will be equipped to deal with our children. We are gonna give behavior-based strategies. Behavior-based strategies are for you learning to teach new skills or shape behaviors, so such as an undesirable behavior, and learning how to support a desirable behavior. So what's an undesirable behavior that your child might have had this week?
Complains all the time.
Complaining. So how do you eliminate that?
Eliminate that?
And how do you support what you want? Don't
Yes,
you want to
please
know?
give me
Don't
the
you want to
answer.
know the answers?
So it actually, so that's one of the modules in our manual, and we even go over like that every behavior has an antecedent. So every behavior, so every action, every way that they express themselves is because of something that they initially wanted. It may not even be that they wanted to eat, it's actually just from the light that's bothering them. So we kind of teach you like some strategies to kind of see if that's what it is. So I guess what I'm trying to say, like in the manual, we talk about like what can cause a behavior and then what to do once the behavior has occurred. So, you know, your child got upset or is complaining. So, okay, now what? How to address that, and as you said, to eliminate it, okay? So that's the whole purpose of the behavior module as well.
And that's a lot of what Ashley does here. She's a behavioral tech.
Yeah.
So she kind of works with that all day. And then it is within, believe it or not, within the occupational therapy realm, with what occupational therapy.
And so to touch up on that, it is within our realm, but it's not a specialty. So that's why we brought this together, because there are behavior analysts who that's their job, and that's what they primarily focus on is behavior therapy. So Jenny has also had experience working with children with autism who she does behavior therapy, and now that we're in OT school, we kind of link the two together and want to bring it together. So
we'll
that
let
was
you
the
guys
purpose.
look in a few minutes at the module so you can get more of an idea.
Yeah, and that way if you have questions or anything like that, you can go ahead and ask them at any point.
basically with all of this, what we're telling you is with this resource, we would like to provide strategies for increasing child's participation and for improving their social skills. That's the gist of this. That's why we created this. We want to give you those skills and that power to have the parental involvement that you might be wanting and that you're not 100% sure how to provide. Again, within what's okay for you guys to do, not as an occupational therapist, you're not a professional, but here, these are some strategies that we use. This is how you can use them at home. And hopefully that'll show some improvement in their social skills.
Do you want to do the break? Like we had discussed earlier, I don't know if you guys want to use the potty room or like get something to eat or something, because we're gonna then now go into our actual module 5.
So, I think the next slide says to look at the module.
Right. Yeah, so it's gonna go into sample.
Sample module is from week 5, so it's well into it. It's the one right before we do the groups. So if you want to take a look at all the ones that come before it, you can.
Yeah, we'll give you like just a minute or two.
So this is the facilitator one. It's not.
Yeah, so you're gonna notice on this one, Josie, that it's gonna just have quotes like for the facilitator to say. But it's kind of like I was talking. This is gonna be the
And then you
the
take this
behavior.
whole thing, but
Right.
that's what it is with each person one.
Mhm.
And those are all the things. And it's kind of like a little workbook where you can write on it and we have little reflections.
Yeah, so
on
in
it.
the session you would have your own. Like for today, we just have a copy of the
Yeah.
facilitator and one for the parent.
Does that ring a bell?
A lot of them, yeah.
Right.
Here, walk. He hates having water.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
a really
actually
common-
a sensory
He's gotten a little
input
better
thing.
about it though.
Yeah?
Yeah, he has, because we don't have a tub anymore, we have a shower.
Yeah.
I have no choice.
Yeah. So what probably happens, he became desensitized to it.
He had to. Yeah.
And there's ways of like introducing, so this is perfect. So that may have been an issue, and as OTs we would help like slowly introduce the whole shower thing,
Mhm.
rather than just like, all right, just take a shower, sorry, that's all we got. And in the manual we kind of do that as well, just to teach you guys that sometimes you don't need to do it all at once. There's ways of like breaking down the steps.
That
And
one, Josie, we included
it could be as
to
simple
kind of give
as
an
like
idea
going
of
into the
if they
pool,
missed
because
any
maybe
of
it's
these
just
milestones,
maybe it's
and
not
then
like
get
his
back
whole
to you
body,
today.
it's his
It's
head,
his head,
but
yeah.
being in the
Talking
pool,
group
you
as
have to
how
submerge
can
your
we
head,
go
right?
back
Or going to
and
the
help
beach.
them
So
meet
like
those
that would
milestones
be
so that
some
they can
stuff
proceed,
that we
because
would
if their
actually
foundation is not
talk
strong,
about
it
in
might
the
be
session,
difficult for them
like
to
ways
proceed
to
with something.
introduce.
Or
Okay,
where
so
are
my
they
kid
now?
doesn't
You know?
like water in his head. Like,
Right.
how do I
Makes so
introduce
much
that?
sense.
So that's it's a great example. Glad you brought that up.
Yeah, a lot of these, loud sounds. His motor skills, some of them are great, some of them are But yeah, he's a picky eater for sure. Has
Does he
trouble
like
with
to have
textures.
okay textures?
Yeah,
For the
certain-
sounds, does he like to have like earphones in? Is
Yeah,
he okay
we
with
have
that?
we have like big like
Noise canceling.
Yeah, the noise.
Yeah, noise
Yeah.
canceling
So
ones.
here at Crystal, we have those as well too.
and it's weird because it's not even all loud noises because he'll sit somewhere with his loud noise and it won't bother him, but certain noises, like a bowling alley, the balls
No,
hitting
they
the
don't like-
boom, the balls
It
hitting
startles him,
Oh,
right?
fireworks. He hates fireworks,
Yeah. So then
stuff like that.
him asking for it, just him realizing it's a loud sound rather than saying, "Ah, my ears hurt," it would be like, "Oh, you can ask us." if
So
we
you can
have
shape the
Definitely.
behavior, like you
Right.
can say, okay, Justin, yes, the sound bothers you, so what should we do?
Right.
Should we use our headphones or should we step outside? And then when he learns that that's a coping strategy, like it's a win.
Right.
So he
Right.
might not be ever okay with that sound, but just him knowing how to cope with it, that's awesome.
Right.
Instead of having a meltdown in the bowling alley and then you have to run outside.
Yeah.
So
a
that's a
bunch of
win.
those.
Unfortunately, that happens, but there's strategies for everything. one day we can do the full group.
Yeah.
So we'll just give you guys about 3 more minutes to look through it and.
Yeah, and again, if you want us to about to use the bathroom or get something to munch on, now would be the time to do it. Maybe I should get water.
Do you want some water, Ashley?
This is mango.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I should, right?
So with each module, there's activities. I see you getting to the activities and the
Yeah.
handouts. So we do kind of break it up and give you guys an activity.
Yeah, in each module, we'll teach something, and then we'll have an activity that hopefully
So one
will
of them,
relate to the
We
to
make
what
a
you've learned.
sensory box. You know, if you're familiar with that. One of them we practice how we can change our reaction, and we show you funny pictures of kids doing very
Things,
fun
and then
things.
the idea is we ask you like, okay, so what do you want to say? And
We
you
wanna
see
say,
this.
"Ah!" But we practice what we can say instead and what we can do instead. So
Yeah, like
It's fun.
this is for the sense creating a sensory rich environment. So like having a fuzzy rug, a bean bag. There's some kids like that like input. So when you get on a bean bag, you're like stuffed and you're squeezed in. Some kids like that,
it's calming.
and it's calming.
So Ashley's gonna pass out a copy of module 5. It's exactly what's in the parent guide.
Yes.
And this is a module that we'll present to you guys today. And that's your copy. You guys can go right on it, take it home. and use that. So the sample module is for week 5. It focuses on appropriate interactions with friends, teachers, public officials, and community helpers. We call that our outer circle. We talked about inner circle in week 4. In this module, we'll focus on teaching you how to teach your child and recognize who's a safe stranger. So we say stranger danger, right? We also have to teach them that they're safe strangers. We're gonna talk about the importance of identification cards what to do in case of an emergency, such as if they get lost. And the strategy that we'll be presenting to you is social stories.
Okay, so in the module, you'll see here at the very front, we have examples of recognizing that people, usually in uniform, your firemen, your police officers, security guards, are the people that you want your child to go to in the case that there's an emergency. If they get lost, they sprain an ankle, and maybe you had turned around and was distracted by something else, they know they can at least look out for those kinds of people to talk to in the case of an emergency. But then people like the guy who has a sign that says dog in the pound, need help, you don't really want them running to. Or the guy who's just staring at the children in the park. It's stranger danger, should be a red flag.
And we give you guys a little link to a video that you could, like we were talking about earlier with the YouTube and iPad and everything, there's a little video that you guys can share. And we share throughout the modules different websites that you can go to and videos that you can watch with your kids.
In addition to that, Safe Strangers, you can also show them pictures of people that you know. It doesn't have to be the Google image of this guy in uniform. You may have an uncle who's a police officer, and that will resonate with them, and they'll remember that more because they actually know who that officer is, and they know that that's Uncle Tom. Yeah, so that was my snippet.
And even I was telling Ashley earlier, my daughter asked my mother-in-law, why were you talking to that guy at Publix? That's a stranger. And then she said, well, he works here, so it's okay. And then that's kind of how we got into the conversation about safe strangers. I don't know if your child has done that, like with the Walmart greeter, like, why are you saying hi to me? But those are some of the appropriate social skills that we're talking about that they might not have a clear concept of that. So we came up with this safety card information. This is a great resource, especially if your child has trouble verbalizing some of this information, that you can give them this, and it doesn't have to be fancy or anything.
Yeah, like we made this up. It's just short and concise to the point.
And it would just say, hi, my name is Justin, I'm 6 years old and have autism. I may have trouble talking with you. I may seem upset. Please contact my mom at this number or call 911 if this is an emergency. So in you guys thinking now, if you're at Disney and your child gets lost, do they know what to do? And are they gonna be able to communicate to the person? I mean, Disney's a bad example because the kids get lost and like in 2 seconds someone scoops them up. But at the mall or anything like that, this is something that you can teach them, that they can just, so if they're like shutting down, but it's ingrained in them, give your ID card, give your ID card. This is just one of those this is a behavioral strategy because you're teaching them a behavior in advance of something happening and of them panicking or not knowing what to do. This is awesome for all
Just
children,
every
all,
day.
all,
this
every day.
will work even this record.
Everyone could benefit from this, but especially if we have any verbal communication difficulties. You understand that and your family might understand that, but outside strangers might not understand that their communication abilities are different. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in, and we have to cope and we have to teach them.
Yeah. And that's a good segue for our coping strategies. We just listed a few, but again, this is not just in case of an emergency. It can just be when your child's having a hard time conceptualizing something, or had a bad day at school. You
Or
can.
they're in the bowling alley and they don't like the sounds.
Yes.
Yeah, the breathing in
Or
and
the
out
people.
works well sometimes with my son.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of calm him down, get his attention, like directly
Yes.
look at me, okay,
And
breathe, take a
breathe.
deep breath, take a deep breath.
Right.
Have you used any of these, Josie, with your son? Does he respond to?
Yeah, there was a time where he actually had a little visual aid that it was like, when I'm really upset, like really angry, these are my options. When, you know, like
That's
it
awesome.
was actually like on a scale of like a little upset, mad to like furious. So
I
it
like
included
that.
like counting or breathing, or I can put my head down, or I can request a sensory break, or I can go for a run or request a walk with somebody,
I like
depending
that.
on the severity, yeah.
Yeah.
So these are some of the ones that we came up with. Like she said, not just for an emergency, but for any time. If you're out out and about and something's happening that they don't like.
And so squeezing a stress ball, even if you were to you know, put your hands together and do this, that sensory input is calming to them, especially when they're like at this high alert stage. Counting to 10, again, it's one thing they can focus on. It's very simple. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10 can help.
And we joked about that's a strategy for the parents too. Before you want to turn around and like throw something at them.
Actually, all these work for the parents
For the
too.
parents too.
Yeah.
I think I read it enough 5
Yeah.
times, like 25 times, just while I'm cooking dinner.
I'm still trying to find that quiet place. So.
True. Yes. So these are just some examples, a few examples that we mentioned in the manual. But as you mentioned, there's countless strategies.
And
that you
hopefully
can
in a
use.
group when there's more families, you guys can do that. You can shoot ideas back and forth. This worked for my
Yeah.
child, that didn't work. Like we tried this, and that's the benefit of a group environment as
Right.
well. So continuing on, if they're actually lost, this is something that you can. It's on page 23. Joseph.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You can flip ahead if you want. If they are lost, it's very important that you talk about this beforehand. It's not something that we want to imagine. We don't want our child to get lost. But if you let them know that these are the steps that they should take, they should stop and call out for help. Look around to see if there are family members there, or find one of those safe strangers that we talked about, and approach the worker, tell them your name, or present them with the information card. And we break it down into 3 steps. Keep the instructions simple, and hopefully they would be able to carry this out. You guys can do the practice.
So we go to the store and
Hide behind
hide behind
I'll
the
hide and see if he does
see
it.
how he
I was
reacts.
thinking that it would be great if Crystal could like maybe stage like a fake drill when they go on a field trip or something. Like get museum personnel to
That would
like,
be great.
are you lost? And like teach the kids to like whip out their ID card.
Yeah,
That's a really
that's
good
a
point.
really good
Yeah.
suggestion.
I hope we can.
It's up to Ashley about that.
She'd love it. I think so.
Yeah.
But it is something that you could stage too, and like this could be one of the things maybe that
Yes.
you guys would like to take it home and try.
Yeah.
We would love to get feedback on, did this work? Is this feasible? Is this good? So, thank you, I like that.
Okay, so going back to the coping strategies, social stories, we've included it in this module just because this content can be hard to explain to your child, right? But social stories in general can be applied to a multitude of things. The basic idea of a social story is introducing an idea or a behavior that they may have trouble with and showing them how they can cope with it, or just another way to introduce it to them. So yeah, the one that you have in your hands, Justin is the one that I have. I mean, Justin's your son. I'm so sorry. Justin's dad is the one that I have on here. But in your module, it's actually a different kind of social story. Social stories can be short and concise, but then like the one here in the module, it's a little bit more elaborate. It's just to show you that depending on your child's needs, you can add more information to it, or you can have less information on it. So in this case, this one's about getting lost. So what to do if I get lost in a store? If I am lost at a store, I will yell, "Mom, Dad," and I'll yell out loud.
Because now they'll do it quiet. When you're always telling them to be quiet, they'll do this. No, you can yell out loud this time.
If that doesn't work, then I will go and find a worker in uniform. So then, kind of how I mentioned before, if you have pictures of people that they know in these uniforms or in your social stories, that's always better because that's going to be easier for them to remember.
Sorry.
Hi. ¿Ya te van?
Sí, pero tenemos limpiamos aquí o te lo dejamos así.
Nosotros no estamos terminados, so yo le digo a Ashley mañana. Está bien.
Ok, muchas gracias.
Unless they're gonna... ¿Esto es el último clase que tienen que hacer? Ok, yo le digo a Ashley mañana.
Ok, muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Perdona.
No, it's okay. So, sorry. I lost my train of thought.
When you find a worker, you tell them I'm lost.
So try to show them a picture of your family that has you.
Yeah, so like I was saying, we use clip arts, but you can use magazines, you can use their pictures, right? I know some kids will use an iPad to communicate, and in the iPads they also try to encourage, use pictures of even food. Instead of putting an apple from Google Images, if you buy green apples, you're gonna show them a picture of a green apple. You get me? So after they would, what was the last one?
They tell the worker that they're lost.
That they're lost, and they would show them their ID card, and then the worker will help me find my parents. I will stay calm and wait. Everything will be okay. And
So
that's it.
this was a getting lost one. The one in your module is if you're going somewhere new.
Yeah. In
That's
this
an
case, it's a
example.
museum. Before we jump into the activity, if you go to the last page, here's also another way of creating a social story. There's an app. It's called Staying Safe and Safer Strangers. It's just $2.99. But they have two different kinds of social stories on there. One for getting lost, and I think the other one is for like a new place. And our kids are always plugged in with the iPhone or the iPad, so this is also just another tool for you guys to use if you don't have time to make a social story about getting lost, for instance. But it's really great because it shows you just another way of introducing a social story. And we just wanted to provide that information with you guys as well.
So as you can see, we usually end the modules with a parent reflection. So it says, name one thing you've learned today that you'll incorporate at home with your child in regard to speaking with strangers. You guys can write it, or we can discuss it, or you can write it in later. And how can family members at home help your child learn the difference between safe strangers and strangers who they should not talk to? So we wrote that just because it's not just about you guys, it's everyone that's working with your child at home, so that everyone can be on the same page.
So this will be the activity that you would actually do in the session, and today we want you guys to try it out too. So we brought magazines for you guys, and we just want you to try to create a social story. We have some paper, some scissors. These are some suggested topics. You don't have to stick to these, but we have here going to the museum, if you're trying to introduce a new food, going to the movie theaters, a birthday party, Disney, water park, but anything that you guys can think of, we can give it a shot and try to create a social story. So we have plenty of magazines. A lot, actually.
Too many.
Here, Ariel.
Thank you.
Got it right.
You can even use something like if you know that something's coming up during the week that you might be doing with your child or on the weekend. You should be folded. Yeah, maybe it's just one thing. Yeah, every one or two.
And it's not limited to like, oh, I can only have 3 pictures or 4. It's whatever you guys think of.
You do movement to arts and crafts area.
Huh? No, maybe not.
And if you can't find something, you can be creative and show us your art skills, and you can draw it. So it's just in like sports.
Mm.
I was gonna say you can do like going to a baseball game or a sporting.
Yeah. Not so much. He doesn't like to hear the announcer
Yeah.
over the feed.
It's the noise, right?
Yeah, it's that though, not the crowd, not anything else. The announcer, like the PA thing.
Wow.
It's weird.
So that would be cool if you could do the social story and kind of prepare him for look at all these great parts of it. Like, are we not gonna go just because there's one part that you don't like? What can we do to overcome that part that you don't like?
Yeah,
And you can prepare him.
Yeah, you can even, so in the social story, if you had like a picture of the PA or something, then you can even write underneath, like, this is the time I can ask for the,
Definitely, yeah.
you know, that's just one way of doing it too.
That's hard because it's like the whole time.
Well, because
Well,
I'm thinking like at the
announcing.
beginning when
Yeah,
they like
actually,
do
the last time we went to the Marlins game, it was kind of like that. At first, I
like
tried
the
to.
Pledge of Allegiance
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Yeah, he didn't like it all that much. I tried to get him as long as he could, but he complained. You know, didn't like it. So I gave him his headset. You know, I gave him the things.
Yeah.
And then he was fine. He was calm. And then little by little, I would tell him, "What? I can't hear you. You know, to take it off. You know, so you can hear me for a second."
Yeah.
And then I eventually I told him just leave one ear.
Yeah.
Or leave half the ear.
Good.
And so little by little he took them off, and then
Then he was okay
he
with
was
it.
okay after like
That's great.
a little while. He's like, "Look, Daddy, I'm not wearing my ear."
Ah, so
And
cute.
he was
Look,
okay.
you could use this with the headphones. Like, if you don't like the sound, we can wear a headphone.
I mean, honestly, a few of those would be good for him, like the birthday party one, or even the one. I got. It's funny. I was laughing when you gave me the magazines because they're all food magazines. It's a lot.
Well,
So I'm like, he doesn't need
you
help
can
with
tell
that.
what we focus on.
We can get you something else than food. Although
Yeah,
food would be
there's
good because food is
and
at birthday parties.
This one has.
Oh look, food. We can have a cupcake for you. So
For the birthday, yeah.
yeah. Oh look, perfect. Like this is Lego. This is what you'll find at a birthday
There's gonna
party.
be people.
Yeah. Maybe we can just find someone saying hello. Like you can say hello to people.
So we do ours with clip art. Might be easier.
Right.
'Cause you can
And that's what I want to like. That's why I mentioned like it's a little more difficult with magazines, but just so you guys have an idea.
You can make it out of
And more-
anything. You can
more
make it,
specific
yeah.
pictures.
and you can make it a project with them too. Like, I know my kids have chosen the images. Like, oh, which picture of the kid brushing their teeth do you like? And then they pick that
There's
one.
also apps and websites to like create vision boards. I'm sure you can probably get a lot of good pictures there for
Yeah.
like social stories.
You see lots of homes that are at the game.
Yeah. Soda is more when he eats so much, like, but most of the time it's just water. He likes water. Luckily.
Oh, good.
I'm always encouraging him to water, so.
We're gonna do the party one then.
Yeah.
This could be like you're gonna see your cousin Emily there.
Ashley, I'm just doing the baseball game if we find anything.
Okay. Hey, there's popcorn. I saw a picture of popcorn. Like this is
Oh, cool.
food that you can ask
Where?
for in here in this magazine.
Okay, yeah.
Here, it was.
Oh, there's popcorn.
You found, oh, look, that one's even better because this one was like half the baby popcorn. Can I cut that out? Yeah.
He was just starting to.
Doesn't he eat grilled cheese?
He loves it. I think he got tired of it.
It's not the
You
best
did.
feeling of my life,
So
but
what does he
He
do
doesn't
for
eat much,
lunch?
so.
What does he do for lunch?
no.
Kid barely eats.
Sure, it's better than I
Really?
think.
Here, Jen.
A lot of times he holds out really.
So we can put like, we're gonna be going to a baseball game. We can get a nice snack like popcorn.
Okay, what else?
or cupcake.
So, what can be like a reward that he'll get if he like
And the
behaves
things
well
doesn't
at
want
a
it, like,
birthday? Maybe we find like we can
No.
put that in the social story. Like, okay, like if you know,
Not so much.
if you.
I mean, he would find rewarding, like, if it has, like, if there's pizza at the bar, I guess we always get
Pizza or-
pizza.
Yeah, 'cause does he normally get the iPad after?
iPad too, yeah.
That's a reward.
Well,
Or,
the challenge would be that he would probably want the iPad after.
You could say it as a reward.
Like, honestly, like, when I visit friends, the only way that I can have, like, full conversation with is on the
And he's
the iPad.
occupied. Okay.
So that's
So
why
we
the
can even
one
find a
time-
picture, like, okay, so
We
it
have-
could be like, we say hi to your cousins and to your family, you can have iPad and then you can have cake at the end, or you'll
Well,
have
the
cake
cake would be more to
during.
describe, like, okay, we gotta cut the cake, or we gotta sing happy
Yeah,
birthday.
yeah, perfect,
We have a phone if you want, like as a
yes.
reward.
There's also a TV in the next few pages.
Oh, or the- Does the sun or anything bother you?
Actually, a part out of cake, but.
It'll get the
This
content.
is
Get the
your
job
reward.
done.
Yes.
We found the mommy reward if you get through the birthday.
Sign me up.
Telling you ABA works. I'm a believer.
I think that's
That's fine.
yeah.
I think they're good, Josie, right?
I think
We
so,
could
too.
do- So, saying hi to people, maybe.
Put our own page,
Mhm.
or
What do you want? You
Watch
want
a show
like,
with
that
her.
folded and we make
You
a
can
little
have
book, or you
iPad.
wanna-
not the.
During
Yeah, saying
graphic
maybe she's the
design,
birthday
or-
girl.
Okay.
So say
Yeah,
happy
just
birthday.
Say happy birthday,
and
perfect.
This could be the
You
cover.
can have
Or it's a
iPad
Facebook thing.
and we're gonna have to
Yeah.
sing happy birthday during the birthday. I think that's good, we can just put that together. How many pictures do you guys have?
We have one,
Four.
two, three, four.
Yes.
Simple,
Yeah, just to introduce the idea. Unless you wanted to add something extra.
No, I'm good. I think that works.
I'll have
Yeah,
them
the
accents then.
kids are all
That's so cool.
Do you have paper? Can I give you a paper?
Yes.
Okay.
So you could put the title, like going to your Facebook page.
Yeah, so you can, I did them like little squares, or you can fold the paper, like almost like a story you can read from
Well,
it.
there's four, so I guess hold it in four.
Yeah.
It's like stuck.
If you guys try out that app, let us know too.
Do you want a scissor or do you wanna?
I was gonna put it in.
I know sometimes if you do it really good, you could just tear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the popcorn. Or should we need to write? You want me to write?
Yeah, if you do the popcorn or you can let us know how to treat.
Here, I'll help.
Okay.
What are you whispering about over there?
Copy me.
Hold it.
Oh, yeah.
There. The other side.
Oh, and then you wanna cut it and then like cut here. And then staple it.
Yeah, that'll work.
Put it at the top so we can write stuff
You
on the
think he
bottom
would
for
do
it.
it with you?
Has Isaac been okay like
I think he
at
would.
birthday parties, or is there something like the
Certain
noise, or just?
Truthfully, we don't go to that many because I don't have,
Yeah.
like, he doesn't really have a lot of friends his age. Like, and I don't have a lot of my girlfriends are either don't have kids or the ones that do their babies.
Oh,
So like, we actually went to a birthday party after the picnic on Saturday.
Yeah.
And she was turning 2. So he was pretty much in the airplane the whole time.
yeah. Like, how do you relate to a 2-year-old? Yeah.
Do it. The popcorn?
Yeah.
Oh, which
Oh,
one
wait,
did
no,
you was
uh,
it this
Chris.
year at Crystal? I know they weren't
That
at
Yeah,
the picnic, but
so
there are some
us
older
we
kids that we have.
Do I put like
Sure.
noise ballers or?
No,
There
the
was a
next
time
one.
where they were talking about like setting up
The
babies.
noise body.
Like I would love
Yeah,
something
that's
like
okay.
that.
I just cut his head off. Or just cut out his body.
I mean, just like teaching him like getting on an airplane, I think would be something good. Like I've been meaning to like maybe like fly him to Orlando or like a short trip to get him to experience it. You know?
You know that they just did the bullet, was it the bullet train or whatever too? That's another one, because if you wanted to go to Fort Lauderdale, you know, let's get on the train.
Yeah.
The bright line.
Oh, wait, that must have been the
Oh.
back part of it.
I'm like,
there's
I haven't had any alcohol.
It's okay. But yeah, I heard about like the bright line things. Pretty cool. Yeah,
And they're
maybe
expanding it,
people-
right, to Orlando
Yeah.
eventually or something.
So I put it like if I'm doing it or if he's doing it.
I will put on my headphones.
This is one. Yeah, because I know at least here in Crystal, we've made visits to like the dentist office before and the doctor's office.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything, that's a tough one because you're like enclosed.
Gilda Mooney told me that I think it's JetBlue maybe, where they have like free like tours, where like they let the
Wow.
like there's pictures of James inside an airplane like with no passengers. They let you like run up and down so you can see the plane before you board it.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's
and they and
really
you go through
good.
security check and stuff like a sample of security or whatever. So I haven't spoken to her because I haven't like I don't have any plans in the immediate future to do it. It's like a longer term thing for
Yeah.
me, but
Did it work, Ariel?
I'm gonna talk to her about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright, that is a really great idea.
Yeah.
And then we can get a special treat. We can order popcorn.
First,
Like
We're gonna-
saying hi,
But
right?
then how?
yeah, going
What?
to
Tell him or he would.
If I behave nicely, I can order popcorn. Or for the special treat, I get to order popcorn.
Is it like numbered, like one?
We can, not necessarily, like ours, we didn't, I'm sorry, we didn't do that, but
Say hello.
yeah. But yeah, you put it in the order too, that you like.
Do you wanna use the popcorn as like, you're gonna get it, and that could be a distractor?
Yeah, but
So-
that's basically I would walk around with him to get him.
We can walk to the concession stand and order
Jenny, can I have
popcorn.
a pen please? That one ran out of ink.
After I rejected your pen.
Yes.
These are all.
Oh, they're all dead, really? Oh, I will give her one of my pens.
But I brought pens and they're all, but they don't.
Would you look at that?
Okay.
Oh, do you need one, Jenny? Here, Ariel, in case that one isn't working.
Is that his father?
Mm-hmm. Come on to the concession stand and I can order popcorn. And maybe that might be something that you wanna work on, ordering.
Yeah, he tries to order his Wendy's.
His Wendy's meal.
Yeah,
He tries.
I love that.
Great.
So you wanna you can give them a script, you know, you can say, you can put it in quotes.
Oh yeah.
Can I please have some popcorn?
Like during the birthday party, I can have iPhone for.
And then the last one.
For 5 minutes.
Too big. That's just to be on iPhone.
It's the X. What's the big one?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think we have a date right here. Oh, Jenny, it's so.
Yeah.
We're a little bit over time. We're almost done.
Put it
That'll
sideways.
work.
Just put it sideways.
Awesome. So, this is for you to keep.
What is that?
But it's the whole concept, you know, Josie, just to help Isaac, you
Yeah,
know,
I know what it
get
is.
acclimated to the
bet.
places. And I know you use stuff like this, so I'm not sure
We
if
did
you use
this-
a social story.
Yeah,
right?
recently when my sitter like quit, like kind of like she gave me 2 weeks notice, and I was like, oh my god, and then I was worried with the new person. So they actually, I had the old sitter send me a picture, Lindsay,
For the
and
last
then
week.
the new sitter sent me a picture, and then Lauren actually put the social story together for me. She sent it home.
Yes.
So it was like, you know, I'm gonna say
Use the
goodbye to
iPad
Lindsay,
or-
and I'm gonna see her in a, you know, in a
You
while.
can give them
Yeah.
time,
And then it was like Roxana's my new babysitter.
Okay.
She's picking me up on
And how
Monday.
did that turn out?
Really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this stuff.
Listen.
It really is a great tool.
And he actually kind of like goes through it and looks at it.
Yeah, and he's really good
After
with
I-
like
He's very
looking
visual.
After the
Yeah.
third inning,
So
like,
I have a little
Yeah.
thing about being visual in a second.
Okay.
you can think about it.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives you like a parameter to like.
We should throw these away, Jenny. I'm only, you know, pulling your leg. These are yours, right? Yeah, thank you. Okay.
So, what did you guys think of the activity?
It was cool. It's a great.
Yeah, it is
I mean,
great.
it's honestly, it's like super easy
Yeah,
to do.
I think you guys could even involve them, and they might like it picking the pictures, and they get an idea of what it's
I
like.
mean, definitely the cutting and the glue and
Yeah,
yeah.
fine motor. So now we'd like you to try it. Maybe you guys can go home, implement some of this with your child, and let us know how it goes. Whether it goes great or whether it doesn't go so great, we really want to know, because this is something that it is just for our graduate project, but we're both very proud of our work and passionate about this. So we hope to take it in the future somewhere and to
It would be
present
great
it.
if you actually implemented it.
I hope so. Well, you let us know.
Yeah.
If you can try, you have the module to take, even if you try one thing, all three things, whatever it may be. Like we said, your feedback matters. We'll use the information that you provide to present our research to our program and to other occupational therapy professionals at our graduate project symposium. So on December 9th, everyone from our class gets together and presents what they did. And our professors walk around and other therapists walk around, and we get to share with them how it went.
So, piggybacking on what you were saying, Josie, you may find it that your child benefits from like visual aids, and I'm not sure if any of you have heard of Dr. Temple Graham. Yes. Okay.
I saw her speak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No way. That must have been like
Amazing.
awesome.
I think I took a picture with her actually.
So, have you heard of her before? So she's an older adult today. She's the only recorded, right, autistic
There's a video,
professional.
a DVD. You can get it on Amazon. It's like $10. It's like her life. HBO actually produced her life.
Right, and she explains how she interprets things, how she learns things, and she specifically says that visuals, like she sees in, I think she says Google Images, right? That like it's just when she thinks of something, it's just like a bunch of pictures of what that
She takes-
item is.
She explained in the movie. It shows you. So she revolutionized the cattle industry
Okay.
in the 60s at a time when women were not like even working practically, right? But it was funny because they would insult her, and she like a lot of times didn't even know that they were insulting her because you know. So she would just show up to work, and so what was happening was that cattle on the way to being slaughtered, they were dying because, for example, they had to be dipped in this like vat of like antibiotics or whatever to kill the fleas, but then they would drown. And so it was costing ranchers a lot of money, and so or different noises that were going on around the place would scare them, and they would trample on each other, so they would like die like without really being properly like slaughtered. And so she created like this machine, which she was super flattered because for the movie they reproduced it to scale.
Wow.
And it's basically, it's not quite a machine. It's like this thing where like the cattle like almost willingly walk towards their death in an organized fashion. But it was more humane, and it ended up saving lots of money. But the reason, the way she put all this together was, she would go and she would like lay down in the dirt and like do this and like feel the dirt, or she'd hear the noises and she would like take snapshots. And it said that she had there's a name for it, but like when you remember things in sequence, when you have like sequential memory, she didn't have that, but she would take all these snapshots and almost like
That's
file
how
them
she
in her
would.
brain.
Yes.
And then eventually it was like files that she would pull up. So she had to do this and like walk through and like try to feel what the animals felt like multiple times to really figure out like, okay, so they're freaking out because it's so loud. That's why they're, you know, like trampling over each other. They're scared.
Yeah.
She could almost feel what the animals felt.
And this is, she has her PhD, right? Like
Yes.
She's
one
a
of the
professor. She
only,
has a
PhD
Like,
holders
people
that has
with-
autism.
Yes.
And she says that there needs to be a lot more emphasis on what a child can do instead of what they cannot do.
And kids have to be exposed to different things in order to develop. A child's not going to find out he likes to play a musical instrument if you never expose him to it.
So we just tied that in with trying new things, not being afraid to get them out there and do something, and hopefully the social stories could help just a little bit with that. Sorry. So today's takeaway is from this program. If you go home, what was the meeting about, honey? You're gonna say, well, it's about including you guys having parental involvement with the use of behavioral and sensory-based techniques has been shown to be an effective way to get children to demonstrate desired social skills. So using these behavioral strategies and other sensory strategies with you guys doing this for your children has a really good chance of getting them to demonstrate the social skills that they might be having difficulty with. And that's what we aim to do with our resource.
Any questions? Comments? Concerns? And these are just our references. So this concludes our presentation. I really hope you guys can take something home today. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
We really appreciate you guys coming out.
No problem. You're welcome.
My pleasure.
Alright, thanks you guys. You guys can take more cookies. There's fruit in the back. Use the restroom, anything you guys need.
Oh, and we'll email you guys
Oh,
or
yes.
send home the post survey.
Yeah,
So-
1 week from today.
Okay.
I'm gonna print it and I'll put it in his folder.
Perfect.
Yeah, and you could just send it in the next day. I think we have a timeout, yeah, and if you can just put the timeout.
Wow, we're like, we went only 9 minutes over.
Look at us. Punctual, that's something Hispanic parents, well, or Hispanic people in general are very good at. But you guys are punctual and we're almost punctual, so thank you.
Thank you. It was good information.
Did you both take your?
Oh, yeah. Let me start this.